It all began with the discovery of tin in Larut, Perak in 1848. Tin mining was one of the biggest economic activities in the 1990s, so it did not come as a surprise that Taiping went on to become one of the busiest towns in the country. Seven years following the town's progression, a railway linking Taiping to Kuala Sepetang was built. The railway station was later renamed as Port Veld by Sir Hugh Low, the British resident of Perak.
The story of the first railway begins in the year 1885 from Taiping to Port Veld. So, under the control and administration of the acting resident of Perak, Sir Frank Swettenham, mooted the idea, and then the railway was first built in Taiping, which was now situated near the KE School ground.
Construction work on the tracks began in 1882 at a cost of £7,000 incurred by the state government.
Stesen Keretapi pertama berada di sekolah jenis kemasaan KE. Kemudian diubah ke stesen yang ada sekarang lah.
This marked the beginning of the railway cargo service in Malaysia. It was a significant change as prior to the existence of the railway, transportation relied heavily on river and sea routes.
Port Veld was the first port in Perak where you were selling all tin ores in wagons and in the ships and boats from there, and went to Penang for smelting of the tin ore.
Keretapi Tanah Melayu Berhad, or Malayan Railway Limited, is the main rail operator in Peninsular Malaysia. The railway system here dates back to the British colonial era when it was initially built to transport tin. Malaysia's first train services from Taiping to Port Veld opened in public on a Monday, the 1st of June in 1885. This happened 60 years after the world's first permanent steam locomotive carried passengers between Stockton and Darlington in England. However, when construction of the railway was completed, the acting governor of that period, Sir Cecil Clementi Smith, and acting British resident Frank Swettenham rode the maiden journey on the 12th of February 1885 before it was open to public.
Semenjak saya bekerja di stesen Taiping, bermula 1982 sehinggalah sekarang. Peristiwa, bermacam-macam peristiwa. Salah satu daripadanya bencana alam banjir. Keretapi daripada Singapura, KL hanya sampai di Taiping sahaja. Dia tak boleh teruskan perjalanan ke utara. Banjir di bahagian serai.
A short track of 13.1 km between Taiping to Port Veld, it had 3 stations along the line which were at the King Edward VII Primary School, Simpang Station, and Port Veld Station. To this day, only one remains, the King Edward School. As time goes by, the railway services became one of the most popular modes of transportation, particularly for long-distance travel.
Ini salah satu yang terpenting di dalam keretapi, dinamakan lever ataupun tuas bumi. Ada bermacam-macam warna. Yang merah dipanggil signal luar dan dalam kawasan stesen. Yang hitam dipanggil point. Dia punya fungsi dia untuk mengalih landasan jalan 1 ke jalan 2 ke jalan 3. Yang biru ni adalah kunci puan. Tarik puan, yang biru adalah kunci dia. Fungsi kedua-dua ni. Dan yang putih adalah lever simpanan.
Alat ini masih lagi digunakan sejak dari mula keretapi beroperasi hinggalah ke sekarang. Digunakan oleh Keretapi Tanah Melayu sebagai autoriti untuk sesebuah tren berjalan, contohnya daripada Pondok Tanjung ke Taiping. Setiap tren yang melalui Taiping untuk ke Pondok Tanjung mesti mengambil suatu kunci untuk perjalanan dari Taiping ke Pondok Tanjung.
As popularity was gained, so have the railway service expanded, first to the capital city of Kuala Lumpur, then southwards to Tanjung Pagar, Singapore. It was most fortunate that these areas escaped bombings by the Japanese army during World War II. In the year 1866, the Maharaja of Johor paid a visit to England and bore witness to the early railway technology. He then decided to build his own railway from New Johor, which is now Johor Bahru, to Gunung Pulai, which was some 20 miles to the northwest. It was then that the first timber track railway was ever built in Kuala Lumpur. Located across the road from the railway station is the Malayan Railway Administrative Office. Its construction began in the year 1914 and it was completed within 3 years in 1917. The building was designed by Arthur Benison Habak, the architectural assistant to the Directors of Public Works of Federation of Malaya. He was posted in Malaya in the year 1902 after service of the same capacity in India. The design of the Malayan Railway Administration Office shows a strong influence of the Neo Moorish or Mughal or Indo-Saracenic architecture. Its appearance was dominated with features such as domes, curves, and tower. This magnificent building immediately complements the railway station, which was located directly across the street from it. Based on a typical Renaissance plan form, the building is well adapted to the needs of the tropical climate with its wide verandas. The rhythmic arch colonnade wrapping the verandas gives the building an interesting shadow interplay on its facade. The building's completion was delayed until after World War I, even though the design has been completed much earlier. Formerly housing the offices of the Federated Malay States Railways, it is now the administrative head office of the Malayan Railway Limited or Keretapi Tanah Melayu Berhad.
Most of the building built by the British 100 years ago, some of them are in good condition, some almost neglected, some lapidated, and most important thing is actually how we manage the building. Headquarters of the Malayan Railway has played a very significant role in the administrative of the whole country Malayan Railway.
Located along Jalan Sultan Hishamuddin, once known as Victory Avenue, and in close proximity to the Railway Administration Building, the National Mosque and Dayabumi Complex, is the Kuala Lumpur Malayan Railway Station. In 1906, the construction of the current building was carried out and completed on the 1st August 1910 at the cost of 23,000. The Kuala Lumpur railway station is a magnificent piece of architecture and was an icon for Kuala Lumpur for decades before the Petronas Twin Towers came into existence.
This building is different from the building in front, where you can see that this architecture is very Moorish. You can see the elaborate of the facade. You can see it stands by itself as an icon in the center of Kuala Lumpur.
It was designed by Arthur Benison Habak, the same government architect who designed most of the distinctive buildings of Mughal architecture in Malaysia. The Kuala Lumpur railway station, which translates directly as Station Keretapi Kuala Lumpur in Malay, is a colossal train station located in the Garden City of Malaysia.
We are at the old railway station of Kuala Lumpur, and this is a very historic building for Malaysia because it is the most important railway point in the whole of the peninsula of Malaysia. And in fact, right behind me here is the E&O Express, which goes all the way from Singapore, passing through Kuala Lumpur and on to the rest of the Malay Peninsula and all the way up to Bangkok. And this railway station is indeed a heritage building. It was built in 1909 and completed in 1911 by the British. And as you can see, it is a very, very old style of railway station with open air endings and very huge trusses. These are steel trusses from the British colonial period. In those days, they built things in a very, very strong and lasting way. And yet, on the outside of this building, it is inspired by Mughal architecture. Mughal architecture meaning the Northern Indian Islamic style, which under the British colonial administration was something that was a very popular kind of architectural style in Kuala Lumpur.
In 1910, the station was built to replace an older station, which is the Residence Station, located on the very same site.
And today it becomes secondary. So you can see that just people use this place as passing by to go to Dayabumi. But honestly speaking, how we look at the building, how we understand the purpose of the building has been built for what. So as Malaysians, we should learn from how and why the building has been erected.
It remained as the Kuala Lumpur railway hub for the Federated Malay States Railway and Malayan Railway prior to the initiation of Kuala Lumpur Central in 2001. The Kuala Lumpur railway station was gazetted as National Heritage in 2007 by the Department of National Heritage Malaysia. In 1995, the Malayan Railway, now known as Keretapi Tanah Melayu, introduced its commuter service known as KTM Commuter. Today, this old station is still being used as one of the KTM commuter stations called Commuter Kuala Lumpur Station.
This building, as you can see, that we have a railway museum. The railway museum is a good idea of how you educate the public about railway. It's not difficult for Malayan Railway to come up with railway museum because we are managing with the thing around them. But most important thing is how the public can make full use of the museum. Whether through the program which the government want to play about talking history, educate young people how to love history. This place should be used to the very maximum where school students should come here, should understand how the development of Malayan Railway, how the development of the country's railway communication.
In 2001, the Intercity Railway was transferred to Kuala Lumpur Central. KL Central was opened on the 16th of April 2001. Besides being the main railway hub for KTM commuter, KTM Intercity, Express Rail Link or ERL, Rapid KL buses and Putra LRT also make their stops here. The KTM commuter train services the cities in Klang Valley and Seremban, whereas the KTM Intercity train links are the cities Peninsular Malaysia and also Singapore. However, plans are underway to transform the old railway station into a tourist-attracting heritage building. Most of the facilities at the Kuala Lumpur railway station were withdrawn, and as such, it no longer serves as the main station in Kuala Lumpur.
It's very interesting to come here and to see all the old buildings, particularly this building and the building opposite, and the old hotel. And I hope that they will be preserved even more, because obviously I noticed that the hotel is now closed. But it's quite interesting because although they say that they're built in a British style, of course they aren't actually the way that we would think of British buildings. They look much more, there's a much more of an Oriental and a Far Eastern input into them.
I think it's very important that you do educational work in the schools with your children to explain to them all the different people who've come to live in Malaysia and preserve the heritage of this past. Sometimes it's been not so happy. It's also been happy as well. So the British built roads and architecture, which if you teach your children the history of Malaysia, you can be proud of the connection with Britain, and it's part of the heritage of the people of Malaysia, running courses in universities and colleges on this history.
Its function as the hub of railway services was slowly transferred to KL Central. However, none can surpass the significance of the old Kuala Lumpur railway station in being the first railway hub in Kuala Lumpur. Despite the inevitable transfer of operation to KL Central, one should not forget that without Kuala Lumpur railway station, development of Kuala Lumpur city itself would not have occurred as it did. And as such, improvements to the transportation system would not have been the same.
Most important thing is actually the history should be put on the right perspective. We can sum up and say that it was built by the British, but today it become our asset, Malaysian asset. Go back into history, relate with the past, interact with the future.
The Kuala Lumpur railway station should remain an icon, well conserved to be appreciated by future generations of Malaysian citizens and tourists alike. Without it, grand physical evidence relating to a part of Malaysian history and its development would likely disappear forever.